Only CBX, your region, your business, your source.
The time by Kyrie Chris is 6 p.m. Time for CBX Business News. The Business News headlines is brought to you by QMX Wealth Management, making more possible.
Brand Jamaica under threat, a policy pivot in Barbados, and AI partnerships expand globally. Good evening and welcome to CBX Business News for Tuesday, February 17, 2026. I'm Rachelle Moncrief. Thanks for joining us. Coming up, Brand Jamaica faces new risks as AI-generated fakes spur a fresh push for stronger intellectual property protection and platform accountability. Also ahead, new cabinet sworn in. Prime Minister Motley pivots Barbados from stabilization to expansion in new term. And later, Ecuador and the UAE are consolidating new tech opportunities, aiming to position Ecuador as a technological free trade zone. Stay with us as we unpack these stories and more right after the break.
The local news is brought to you by Derriman Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean flavors and fragrances, tease the senses, and Pulse Investments.
Welcome back to CBX Business News. We begin with a stunning AI development that could have serious implications for Jamaica's creative economy. Jamaica's cultural dominance is facing a new threat: artificial intelligence, AI. During a fireside discussion at the Vision 2030 Jamaica Forum recently, JMEA Vice President Mark Frankson stunned the audience by playing what sounded like an authentic Jamaican track.
Listen to this for a minute. DJ.
Moments later, he revealed the truth: the lyrics, the voice, the rhythm, all AI generated. Frankson says Jamaica's cultural influence can now be cloned by AI in real time. And unless the country secures its intellectual property, Jamaica risks losing control and revenue from its own brand.
The problem is we don't know by whom. It's not necessarily a Jamaican who did that. It's not necessarily a Jamaican producer or writer that created that. And so if we don't digitize our culture and protect it, somebody else will. And I promise you, they will monetize it faster than we can.
That was JMEA Vice President Mark Frankson. Jamaica's consumer prices declined in January, with the All Jamaica Consumer Price Index falling 0.8%, according to the Statistical Institute of Jamaica, Statin. The monthly contraction was driven largely by a 2.6% decline in the food and non-alcoholic beverages division. Statin says the sharpest movements came from a 9.9% fall in vegetables, tubers, plantains, cooking bananas, and pulses, along with an 8.4% decline in ready-made food products, reflecting increased local agricultural supply. But the easing in food prices was partly offset by a 0.7% rise in housing, water, electricity, gas, and other fuels linked to higher water and sewage rates. Education costs also rose 1% due to increased preparatory school fees. On a year-over-year basis, point-to-point inflation stood at 3.9%, suggesting price pressures remain contained but not fully subdued. Jamaica's financial asset tax is now being framed as more than a policy issue, but a direct constraint on shareholder returns and debt reduction at NCB Financial Group Limited, NCBFG. Speaking at the company's annual general meeting, Chairman Michael Leachin described the tax as a major friction, limiting how quickly the group can deleverage and restore stronger dividend payouts.
The big elephant in the country, in the room, is asset tax. So asset tax was brought on as a temporary measure in 2012, temporary for 3 years. It's still here.
According to the chairman, NCB has paid approximately US $194 million in asset tax over the past decade. Capital, he says, did not go to shareholders or debt reduction.
Well, guess how much NCB has paid in asset tax since 2012? One guess, US dollars. Anybody can guess? Other than Malcolm, CFO. Anybody can guess? How much? 3 billion? 3 billion? 25 billion? Nearly. But about 75 billion? I know in US dollar terms, and you can multiply this by 160, it is 194 million US dollars since 2012.
That was NCBFG Chairman Michael Leachin. Staying in financial news, Dollar Financial Services posted a 40% surge in net profit to $574 million for the 2025 financial year. But beyond the headline growth, the real investor story is about risk and whether the company can scale without compromising credit quality. Revenue climbed 29% to just under $2 billion. Total assets rose to $5.2 billion and earnings per share improved to 23 cents. Yet, 2025 wasn't without pressure. Non-performing loans, NLP, edged higher to roughly 13%, up from around 10% the year prior. Dollar CEO Kenroy Carr says this was driven in part by large exposures now in liquidation.
That gradual increase or that small increase would have really been impacted by some significant loan balances which would have fallen into the non-performing state that we are now in the process of liquidating, because during 2025 we actually took significantly greater measures to liquidate assets that we were not getting full cooperation from the customers on, and therefore, even though we saw the NPL move up a bit to 13% during the year, a large portion of this 13% still represent loans that are adequately secured and that we are still in the process of liquidating. Of course, you know, in this market, liquidating a property sometimes can take 3 months, but other times we're looking at 9 months, 12 months especially if you have a cancellation here and there.
That was Dollar Financial Services CEO Kenroy Carr. Moving now to news from the central bank. The Bank of Jamaica BOJ is reporting a $10.6 billion year-to-date loss as at January 28, 2026, with retained earnings showing a negative $10.58 billion, confirming the shortfall. Even so, the central bank's overall capital position remains solid. According to its latest published balance sheet, total capital and reserves stand at just under $51 billion, indicating the BOJ continues to operate with a substantial financial cushion. The balance sheet also shows total assets at approximately $1.3 trillion, driven largely by foreign assets of about $1.06 trillion, highlighting the continued strength of Jamaica's external reserve holdings. Central bank losses are not uncommon during periods of tight monetary policy. Higher interest expenses and liquidity management operations often weigh on earnings. The latest figures suggest the BOJ is absorbing the cost of maintaining price and exchange rate stability while preserving a strong reserve base. We move to the latest updates from the JSE equities. In Tuesday's trading session, the JSE market activity resulted in the trading of 117 stocks, of which 51 advanced, 43 declined, and 23 traded firm. Leading the winners are Mayberry Jamaican Equities, Cygnus Real Estate Finance USD, Epley Caribbean Property Fund SCC, and G West Corporation Ordinary Shares. While leading the losers are First Rock Real Estate Investments, Productive Business Solution USD Ordinary Shares, Palace Amusement Company, and AS Bryden & Sons Holdings 6% Class A preference share. The main index advanced by 1,736.47 points to close at 343,565.74 points. The junior market index declined by 2.06 points to close at 3,313.47 points.
And it's time for Market Education Feature, brought to you by CariCris, Regional Ratings, Global Standard.
In today's Market Education Feature, we're defining an earnings call. An earnings call is a conference call or webcast where a public company's executives discuss financial results with analysts, investors, and sometimes the media. It usually takes place after the company releases its quarterly or annual earnings report. During the call, leadership highlights key performance figures, explains trends in revenue and profit, and outlines future strategy. A question and answer session typically follows, giving participants a deeper insight into the company's outlook and direction.
The Market Education Feature was brought to you by CariCris, Regional Ratings, Global Standards.
And that's it for the local news segment. Please stay with us. The regional news is up next.
The local news is brought to you by Diamond Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean flavors and fragrances, tease the senses, and Pulse Investments.
We get it! We get the big contract! 50,000 units a month for 3 years! Great! We need help.
If you are a business owner that requires capital for the expansion of your business, talk to a registered broker today to find out more about listing your company on the Jamaica Stock Exchange, an efficient alternative to other financing options.
Thank God for the Jamaica Stock Exchange junior market.
The Jamaica Stock Exchange, providing a fair, efficient, and transparent stock market.
So much book you need for high school?
I'll show you how to make sure you have all the money for my books
and even some extra. It's called budgeting, Dad. Making a budget is the most important thing you can do to track your money. It keeps a record of how much you make, how much you spend, where you spend it, and most importantly, how much you can save. Write down all your income, write down all your expenses, see where you can cut down and allot more money to more important things, like saving.
Welcome back. And now for the regional business news. Barbados is entering what Prime Minister Mia Mottley describes as a new phase of economic expansion following the official swearing in of her restructured cabinet. Speaking after ministers took the oath before President Jeffrey Bostic on Monday, Mottley signaled a pivot from stabilization to competitiveness, telling Barbadians that 18 consecutive quarters of growth and declining debt levels have laid the foundation for the next stage.
Stabilizing the economy was not our destination. Yes, we have stabilized, and we're proud of it. And we're proud of the fact that we have 18 straight quarters of growth. But the work, my friends, continues. And we must become faster, smarter, and more attractive in how the state relates to households, to workers, and to businesses.
The Prime Minister also confirmed that cost of living relief measures are coming, aimed at boosting disposable income while maintaining affordability of essential goods.
This government will implement the package of measures that I spoke to each and every night on the platform to reduce the burden on people in this country and to put more disposable income in their pockets.
That was Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley. Antigua and Barbuda Prime Minister Gaston Brown is warning that heightened European scrutiny of Caribbean citizenship by investment programs could undermine economic stability across the Eastern Caribbean. Speaking at the Caribbean European Union Parliamentary Assembly in Antigua on Monday, Brown defended the region's CBI model, stressing that the programs generate critical revenue to support small and vulnerable island economies with limited fiscal options.
These programs are very important to the socio-economic development of the sub-region. They have helped finance hurricane recovery, climate resilient infrastructure, healthcare, education, and fiscal stability in these small economies with very limited alternatives.
Brown pushed back against European claims that the programs pose security risks, arguing that Caribbean due diligence and vetting standards are more rigorous than often portrayed.
We have invited and continue to engage with the European Union on strengthening our CBI programs. It is an engagement that is evidence-based, technically grounded, and as respectful of our development realities as we are respectful of your concerns, especially your security concerns. The stringent due diligence, the biometrics, residency, and other requirements make the obtention of our citizenship far more difficult and certainly less risky than other third country nationals obtaining non-immigrant EU visas.
That was Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, Gaston Brown. In other news, Guyana's Ministry of Public Works has launched a landmark request for proposals for the design, construction, and financing of 2 new municipal airports in Regions 6 and 9, a major push to modernize the country's aviation infrastructure. Under national competitive bidding, the government is seeking proposals for a Code 3C airport at Rose Hall in Berbice, a facility designed to handle narrow-body aircraft and strengthen domestic and regional air travel. The project is expected to support trade, tourism, and business activity along the East Berbice corridor. A second, more ambitious project involves a Code 4E airport in Lethem, capable of accommodating wide-body aircraft. Officials say the facility will deepen cross-border commercial links with Brazil and position southern Guyana as a gateway to the wider Latin American market. In addition, the ministry is inviting bids to rehabilitate priority hinterland and coastal airstrips, a move aimed at improving safety, reliability, and access for remote communities where air travel remains essential. RFP documents become available February 19, with submissions due in March and April. The government says the projects form a part of a broader strategy to expand air connectivity, drive regional integration, and support long-term economic growth. And there was no trading activity on the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange, TTSE, again today, as the exchange remained closed for Carnival celebrations. The market is scheduled to reopen on Thursday when regular trading and settlement activities resume. And we take a short break, but please do stay with us. The international news segment is up next.
It's feeling so good right now. Feeling so good right now. Yeah, yeah. It's feeling so good right now. Feeling so good right now. Yeah, yeah. It's feeling so good right now. Don't ever, ever, ever wanna calm down. Oh, no, no. Yeah, yeah.
I'm trading stocks to achieve my financial goals.
I'm also trading stocks to achieve my financial goals.
Start a conversation with the Jamaica Stock Exchange.
Check jamstockx.com for information and a list of registered stockbrokers. You can also call the Jamaica Stock Exchange at 876-967-3271 for information on how to begin. I am achieving my financial goals.
I'm achieving my financial goals.
Welcome back. In international news, at the 13th edition of the World Government Summit in Dubai on Tuesday, what began as a diplomatic forum quickly evolved into a strategic technology alliance. Relations between Ecuador and the United Arab Emirates, UAE, are now accelerating, with artificial intelligence, AI, at the center of the growth strategy. Ecuadorian President Daniel Noboa says the two countries have consolidated new technology opportunities with a clear economic objective, positioning Ecuador as a technological free trade zone.
We have also consolidated new opportunities to further expand our bilateral relations. In the field of technology, the UAE has confirmed that its readiness to provide technical and technological advisory support to transform Ecuador into a technological free trade zone, with the ambition of becoming the most competitive and innovative in Latin America, strengthening our country's vision of becoming the regional technological hub.
That was President of Ecuador, Daniel Noboa. In the meantime, UAE Minister of State for Artificial Intelligence, Omar Sultan Al Olama, revealed that the Emirates has already launched an AI training program in Ecuador, targeting young people and building local capacity.
The UAE launched with Ecuador a program to empower 10,000 young people to become super users of artificial intelligence. And the outcomes of this so far have been incredible. With that, we see that the government has a bold step to put a strategy that focuses on people first, and one that is going to transform the economy, the society, and the country at large.
That was UAE Minister of State for Artificial Intelligence, Omar Sultan Al Olama. Meanwhile, in the precious metals market, gold prices tumbled more than 2%, sliding to roughly $4,870 per ounce as stronger US dollar and shifting expectations around the Federal Reserve policy pressured the metal's near-term outlook. The rebound in the US dollar index comes as investors reassess the trajectory of monetary policy. while softer inflation data for January strengthened the case for more than one rate cut this year. Solid non-farm payroll gains, resilient private sector hiring, and projections for continued GDP growth have tempered expectations for an aggressive easing cycle. That dynamic has kept U.S. rate differentials supportive of the dollar, adding further strain to dollar-dominated gold. Although geopolitical tensions continue to provide some safe haven backing for bullion, currency movements remain the dominant driver of price action in the current environment. And from precious metals to industrial commodities, copper prices eased Tuesday amid thin trading and rising stockpiles of the industrial metal. On the London Metal Exchange, copper futures fell about 1.2%, slipping below $12,800 per ton as markets lacked direction, with several Asian traders still away for the Lunar New Year holiday. Global inventories tracked by the exchange rose an 11th straight session, reaching their highest level since last March, with stockpiles in Shanghai, London, and New York surpassing the 1 million ton mark. The buildup reflects softer industrial demand, particularly in China, and a rebound in inventories after large shipments were moved to the U.S. ahead of potential tariffs. Lead and nickel also weakened. Traders are now watching for clearer signals on U.S. tariff and monetary policy to drive the next move in base metals. And that's it for the international segment of the newscast. The news recap is coming up on the other side of the break.
So much book you need for high school?
I'll show you how to make sure you have all the money for my books and even some extra. It's called budgeting, Dad. Making a budget is the most important thing you can do to track your money. It keeps a record of how much you make, how much you spend, where you spend it, and most importantly, how much you can save. Write down all your income, write down all your expenses, see where you can cut down and allot more money to more important things, like saving.
And now to recap our top stories. In the local news, brand Jamaica at risk, AI fakes spur IP, platform push. Regionally, new cabinet sworn in, Motley pivots Barbados from stabilization to expansion. And internationally, Ecuador, UAE deepen AI partnership to drive a tech zone push. Those were the stories making today's CBX Evening News. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Rachelle Moncrief. Thanks for watching CBX, your region, your business, your source.
Hi, I'm Horace Hines, Managing Director, JN Money Services, and you're watching